Please turn up the volume for this. Schools have become the front lines of America's culture wars, from what books are allowed in the library to battles over LGBTQ issues. That is why one nonprofit is working to get its educational videos, I should say educational videos, into classrooms. But critics are saying it is just conservative indoctrination. Here's my colleague and friend Antonia Hilton with an extraordinary report.
What does it mean to be feminine?
Your kids may have seen these videos online.
Embrace the idea of being a wife or a mother.
Educational videos on everything from culture to history to climate.
Without fossil fuels, much of the world's population would starve to death in a year.
This is PragerU, not an actual accredited university, but rather a, quote, pro-American education nonprofit with growing school partnerships in New Hampshire, Florida, and Oklahoma.
It's called edutainment.
According to CEO Marissa Straight, their videos are an answer to an education system too focused on diversity and gender. In this Los Angeles studio, PragerU's artists focus on American exceptionalism.
They feel like they're serving on the front lines of saving the war of ideas in America.
Since the pandemic, PragerU says it has more than doubled revenue and reached nearly 10 billion views of their videos. Founder Dennis Prager has been a controversial radio show host for years.
If you're spending a good part of the day teaching kids about preferred pronouns and other what we call woke issues, then you're really not teaching them.
What I hear from teachers of every background is that they are slammed from block to block. They are underpaid, they are underappreciated, and that they don't even have time to talk about pronouns, gender theory, critical race theory. You can point to here or there.
I don't believe that they're telling you the truth. I actually think they're lying to you.
In Oklahoma, some teachers like Gabe Woolley are using PragerU in the classroom. We watched Prager's video.
Here's the first thing you need to know.
A short history of slavery together.
After centuries of human slavery, white men led the world in putting an end to the abhorrent practice.
She's giving credit mostly to white people right now for ending it, right, before the acknowledgement of the pain that some of your students might actually know about and feel in their families, right?
Right. And there's a lot of content that we cover that does cover that aspect. But what we almost never talk about is the reality of slavery happening almost since the beginning of time to the end of time.
A few minutes down the road, families like the Reyes, who are a mix of white, Choctaw, and Mexican American, say the broader culture war playing out in schools is hurting teachers.
We trust our people, right? We trust our educators. Like we said, I mean, this is our community.
We showed them some of PragerU's videos designed for kids.
300,000 Union soldiers, overwhelmingly white, who died during the Civil War.
Zoe is in 5th grade.
Something that I noticed was no other culture did anything. No other culture died. No other culture tried to stop slavery, which I know that isn't true.
That's extremely concerning to me because it's, so much inaccuracy with things.
What would a good American education system look like to you?
Like it did in the 1930s, minus anything that was offensive.
All the bad things going on in the 1930s.
You're right. Minus the bad things. Yes, that's correct.
Looks good.
A vision he's now trying to bring to schools nationwide.
Joining me now, NBC correspondent Antonia Hilton. Her new book, Madness, Race, and Insanity in a Jim Crow Asylum, comes out next month. Antonia, I had no exposure to this, right? I have seen clips of Dennis Prager for years, but this I was unaware of. You have seen not every video they have, but you have been inside of this zone. Tell us what it's like. What is the most extreme thing you've seen?
Well, I spent the entire day in their studios, and in a lot of ways, it's very wholesome. It looks like some of the studios we have here at NBC, or that you might imagine at a place like Nickelodeon, right? Lots of lights, illustrators, and artists working on cartoons. But when you actually talk to folks there, often they use terminology that you would typically reserve for war. They describe fighting on the front lines, a war of ideas, that they think they're battling good versus evil, right versus left. And so behind all that shiny stuff in the studio is a sort of dark view or a dark picture of what's happening in America. And they say that that's helped them recruit people, frankly, that there are people leaving Disney, leaving Nickelodeon to come work at PragerU because they have this concern about America, because they want our education system to focus more on the positive, on American exceptionalism. And when I talk to teachers who see this stuff day in and day out, or they're being suggested to use it, they're frankly freaking out. It's making them concerned about what their future in this field might look like and how they're even going to be able to teach simple subjects in American history.
But right there, do these people even have an accurate picture of what's happening in American classrooms, right? They talk about teachers, talking about pronouns all day long. Teachers are talking about math, science, reading, trying to catch up for learning loss from COVID and to keep their students safe.
Well, some of the employees at Prager are former educators who say that they left because they were disgusted by certain things going on in their districts. But I can tell you, I mean, NBC pays me to go to schools all over the country. It's a big part of my job. I spend a lot of time with teachers. And while some of them have tried to talk about issues like diversity, or maybe they talked about George Floyd when that happened and they tried to have sensitive classroom conversations around it, the majority of them tell me they are slammed all the time. They feel like they're drowning in work. They don't have enough support. They barely have enough pay. They can't really see a future for themselves in the field. And they're just trying to hold on for the sake of kids that they love and adore and want to give the best education possible. And so when they feel like they're being called groomers, pedophiles, anti-American, you know, add that on top of all the other challenges they're facing. It's really hard if you're a teacher in your 20s or 30s to see, how am I going to continue doing this? And so I think, you know, that's one of the questions I brought to Dennis Prager was, you know, has he taken these concerns, the pressure that's on these educators, into account? And I mean, you saw there, he thinks that many of them are lying about it.
He thinks that we should take our education back to where it was in the 1930s. What does that mean? When classrooms were segregated and girls were taught, to sew instead of science?
Well, that is a lot of what was going on in the 1930s. He described it as the 1930s minus all the bad stuff. When you think of people in certain communities in the United States, certainly black communities, they might hear that and think, well, there wasn't a whole lot of good stuff going on for us at that time, so we don't know where we fit in that picture. But this is part of the debate and the sort of black and white binary when it comes to education and this conflict we're seeing spill out all over the United States. I mean, just the vision on either side here is completely different. And what you hear them describing at PragerU, how they describe the American education system, and what I'm seeing when I go into classrooms and when I talk to teachers, superintendents, and other administrators, they're not quite lining up.
But that family that was in your piece, right? The Reyes family, they're right in the middle of this. They say the videos are heartbreaking and that their 5th grade daughter was able to see this stuff isn't even true.
That's right. And she had actually never watched PragerU videos before. And so she was reacting to that, you know, in real time. And it was interesting to watch her face, her parents' face, as they were listening to some of the content and clearly processing it in the moment. You know, they are a family, Indigenous American, also a family of immigrants as well. And so they kind of represent, you know, the melting pot, the diversity of this country. And what they tell me they see in the classroom are their teachers working hard to teach their daughter the best in all subjects that they possibly can. And that their biggest concern right now is the sort of right-wing push to transform the classroom, to purge a lot of these educators out of this space, that they feel like that's what's affecting their daughter's education most at this time. And so when I tried to describe to them some of the accusations you just heard right there, that wasn't familiar to them. They live in Oklahoma, right in Tulsa, and that's not the reality, according to them, on the ground.
Listen, you want to bring home ec back? Bring it back. We all need to sew. We all need to cook. We all need to balance a checkbook, but not just for girls.